Welcome back, everyone, to another cool episode. This is Tim Laskus, and you're listening to The Tim Laskus Show, episode 58. I have some great new sponsors, and I'm so excited to tell you about Longtail Pro. Hey, many of you are probably out there have websites, and you're thinking, man, I'm like on page 1,627 of Google whenever I look up some of those keywords that you think you need to be having linked to your site and all that good stuff, and it is just not working. Longtail Pro has the answer, because they will help you find the most profitable and search keywords that you want, that are going to help you and to escalate your website to the top of the page. And they have cool plans. They have one that's like their cheapest, $25 a month, and you get over 10,000 keyword searches. And you also get to give them a free test drive, get a free 7-day trial. So head on over to timlaskus.com/resources and click on the link to Longtail Pro. It'll help you find those most searched keywords so that you can use them to escalate your website to the top. Now, on to our guest, who is Chris Laub. Chris went from broke to Bali, and he talks about the power of market research and how this is so important to companies today. Well, Chris is an ex-sales executive who quit his secure job, and he went to start his own business online, and he thought, yes, I've made it. Boom. But then he stumbled, and he lost his entire savings of $81,000. We went all the way back down to flat broke, living with mom and dad, until he found out the power of direct response copywriting. Now, today is Chris is a sought-after expert in market research. He's consulted with Shark Tank winners, Inc. 500 companies, and even 8-figure, whoa, that's a lot of zeros there, internet marketers. He has personally benefited from the services of coaches, and now his focus is on helping coaches to escalate their businesses and attract those big-name clients. So sit back and enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests. Entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Hello, everyone. Today's featured guest is Chris Laub. Chris, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Hey, it's a pleasure. We were talking about, you're going to make some people jealous right now because you're out in Bali. Man, I can't believe it. Surfing, living the dream. Tell the listeners what that's all about.
So I left my 9-to-5 job at the end of 2010, kind of cliche, but I had read The 4-Hour Workweek and convinced myself I was going to be the next Tim Ferriss. So decided to quit my job, figure out how to start an internet business. That's a whole nother story. It was a very rocky process, but yeah, spent a couple of years doing this whole digital nomad, traveling around the world thing, and discovered it was really hard to get work done when I was traveling. So slowed down on that, and the girlfriend and I just moved out to Bali about a month and a half ago.
And is Bali everything that you had dreamed of and that you had read about?
Honestly, it has its pros and cons. Unfortunately,
it let you down.
No, I mean, like, it's been great. I moved here to surf, and I am surfing a lot, so it's been great on that front. But, there's been such a mass influx of tourism that it's kind of lost the charm it got famous for, the whole eat, love, pray thing and all that. There's just been such a mass influx of tourism that it's kind of turned into I don't want to say an ugly place, but there's a lot of ugly sides about it, just crazy traffic, and the locals have kind of become jaded, but no, it's still an awesome place.
Huh. Well, so it sounds like Costa Rica's kind of changed over the years too, where it became almost too commercial, and the prices went up and it became crowded in certain areas. Is that what it's kind of like too?
Yeah. It just happens in these super popular places. What made them charming in the beginning kind of disappears as the mass industry moves in. But Hey,
Well,
what are you
Bali
gonna
seems
do?
so far away. I mean, it's like, I mean, that's a long distance from the U.S. How many hours flying is it?
Oh, geez. So my family's in Southern California. I fly from LA, so it's usually like a 12 and a half hour flight to China. From there, usually transfer to like Bangkok for about 4 hours, and then from Bangkok, I think another 3.5 or 4 hours to Bali. So yeah, I mean, flying from the U.S., you're looking at like a minimum of 26 hours once you add in layovers.
Man, and you would think you'd be safe from all the crowds of the world, but no, people are just, the world's gotten too darn small, man. That's
Wow.
nuts. There's
Well,
no
the
place
thing
to
is,
hide.
yeah, yeah, it really, it really has gotten small. But the thing you have to remember is it's a couple hours from Australia. This is like the Cabo San Lucas or Cancun of the U.S. Just a couple hour flight for the Aussies.
Gotcha. So it's in their backyard, so you got all the Aussies coming over and having too much fun.
And a lot of Russians. I don't know why, because it's not very close, but a lot of Russians
Huh.
here on vacation too. Yeah.
Well, it's so damn cold in Russia that they're like, I gotta get away. They saw
Yeah.
somebody selling Bali in the magazines with the tropical trees and the warm weather and the bikinis, and they're like, I've got to go. So
Yeah.
that's
100%.
funny. Well, we could talk about Bali all day long, but tell the listeners a little bit about yourself professionally and what are you currently working on?
So I am a direct response copywriter. I write um, content and emails and sales pages and videos to help businesses sell stuff. And lately, I've been spreading the word about the importance of doing market research. It is not a very sexy topic, but it is really critical to these businesses being able to do effective marketing and especially scalable, leverageable mass marketing to, if someone's looking to really scale their business through something like, Facebook ads or social media marketing or any kind of mass advertising that moves away from content marketing and one-to-one relationships. It's really critical that you understand your market and understand how to communicate with them. So trying to be spreading the word about the importance of that process.
Now, how did you fall into this? How did you get started?
Man, yeah, kind of my whole internet marketing career was just one rabbit hole after another. Very early in my internet marketing career, I stumbled upon some information products and training material from a guy named Glenn Livingston. He's actually a doctor, a PhD, was doing six-figure consulting, marketing consulting for Fortune 100 companies, like the top brands in the world, paying him six figures to do focus groups and in-depth market research. And he had left that career behind and got into the internet marketing space, was doing some stuff with Perry Marshall. So I checked out one of his sales pages and decided to pick up one of his trainings. And it was just mind blowing how he was using these, doing a lot of upfront legwork to research these markets. And he successfully moved into 17 different niches with various information products and courses and services, including some of the most competitive niches on the planet, finance and investing and insurance. And, I don't want to go too deep with this, but basically his backstory was that he had lost, he went over $2 million into debt, launching a business that didn't work out and essentially went $2 million into debt with money that wasn't even his own. And, he managed to pull himself out again, but it was such a traumatic experience, he decided that he would never ever move into a market again unless he understood it like the back of his hand. And unless he had, the guy's like a brainiac, PhD. So he developed this market research process for systematically scoring the profit potential to move into a new market, figuring out like how easy is it going to be to generate a profit in this new market, and just had dramatic success with this process. So he ended up mentoring Ryan Levesque, who, if you follow online marketing at all, he wrote the book Ask, which was a bestseller, launched the survey funnel formula and Ask methodology, and just kind of blew up in the internet marketing space with the survey funnel stuff. And Ryan was Dr. Glenn's one and only protege. And Dr. Glenn basically came out and said that Ryan, understood his methods better than Glenn even did. So it's just a really fascinating methodology for risk reduction and risk prevention, basically understanding how to launch a new product or service or how to move into a new market with near rock solid certainty that you're going to be able to generate a profit.
Wow, that sounds fascinating, and especially Dr. Glenn's story of losing all that money and then coming back. I mean, for most people, 99%, they're just done. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, in some of the work that you've done, now you've consulted with some of the Shark Tank winners. Shark Tank, is that true?
Yes, I worked with a Shark Tank company about 2 years ago or so. I was hired by the marketing agency that they had hired to do some of their online marketing stuff. Ended up getting into direct contact with them. And that was really interesting to see kind of what, like Shark Tank is such a big win and such an instant credibility booster and publicity booster. And then kind of seeing like how that affected the company and then what they were able to to do or not do with that visibility and investment after the fact. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting process.
Wow. So for you, just kind of like a sponge soaking up all, the effect, the cause and effect of Shark Tank, and being there to kind of witness that must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely fascinating, and what was really interesting about this, I've actually never really connected the dots on this before, but in so I'm not allowed to say who the company was that I was working with, but long story short, they were like they did have some success. They got on Shark Tank. They had even more success, but it was not an automatic path to a sustainable seven-figure business. They had a lot of struggles, and if anything, I think winning the Shark Tank investment blew them up a little bit too fast because of kind of what we're talking about today with this market research stuff. They were in an extremely competitive market and they didn't take the time to do their market research. I was on top of them. I was trying to get them to do it and to better understand just how competitive their market was and what they needed to do to better understand the consumers they were serving. And they just didn't take it seriously and didn't go that path. And suffice to say, they are not doing so well these days.
Interesting. Well, now that you've kind of brought that up and you're talking about doing market research and understanding who your customers are, what are some tips you would have for some of the entrepreneurs out there today who have small businesses, and what advice would you give them to help them better understand who they're serving?
So, I mean, the easiest way to really understand your market and your niche and your audience is to get them on the phone. So, if you have an established business, that I have what I call the market research pyramid, and I will not bore your readers to death with all of the details, but at the top of the pyramid is doing live interaction with your buyers. So you're not going to get higher quality and more relevant market research data than interacting with your buyers live. So, in the old days, we didn't have the internet. All these businesses were operating offline. So business owners were interacting with their prospective buyers and buyers face to face, in the store, in the office, in the clinic, whatever. But the internet has totally changed that. So many business owners are removed from their customers and clients. They're not interacting with them on a frequent basis, if at all. So one of the most effective things you can do is to just get your buyers on the phone and talk with them about what unmet needs they have, what they do and do not like about your product or service. I have a whole market research phone script that I have available for your listeners, but just getting people on the phone will take you so far. And it's not sexy, it's not exciting, but and it is hard work, but it can give you just massive insights to your market. And because it's not sexy, because it's hard work, the overwhelming majority of businesses out there, I mean, I would estimate maybe 95%, 90 to 95% are not doing this. They're too lazy. They want to do surveys. They want to take shortcuts. And because of that, they struggle to effectively communicate and sell to their market.
Do you see that it's a mindset kind of issue? You know, a lot of entrepreneurs get into business, either they develop a product because they said, oh, this is a product that I would want, or this is a service that I would need. And so they create this product or service, and then they just start feeding the people. And it's like, I know what you want. I know what's best for you. And they just keep feeding them and feeding them. And then they're kind of left scratching their head going, well, nobody's eating what I'm giving them. So so it seems like there needs to be a shift to get off your high horse. What helped you to kind of launch the company then seems to need to shift, where you go from, okay, I've got this great idea, to a product. Now I need to shift and let me ask people how I can make it better, or what do they really want?
Yeah, 100%. We've got a quote in the marketing industry. The marketing graveyard is filled with good ideas. And, everybody's got an idea, but if it's not something that the market is willing to pay for, it doesn't matter, how much you love your baby, how great you think your idea is. It just doesn't matter. And what's kind of interesting, just a quick story to kind of show you the power of doing this stuff. So I was working with an information publisher about 1.5, 2 years ago. They were operating in the nutrition and weight loss space. And when I started working with them, they were doing a couple 100,000 in revenue per month. The owner had years of experience doing media buying, had managed millions of dollars in ad spend. So they were, they were making profits, doing a couple 100,000 a month, but they were in this situation where doing a lot of Facebook advertising, where if the cost of their Facebook ads went up 10%, or the conversion rate on their landing page dropped by 10%, they would go from profitable to in the red. And that is such a stressful way to live as a business owner, where just the slightest shift in the cost of a Facebook ad can throw your whole entire business into the negative. So when I started working with them, I executed on this market research process that I learned from that Dr. Glenn guy. And whenever I do this for a client, I basically make them tell me, okay, who do you think your target market is? What do you think the demographics are? Just tell me what your assumptions are. So then I executed on my process and came back to them, and they were just way off the mark. So they thought that their audience was about men and women ages 30 to 45 interested in losing weight, which is kind of the typical assumption about the weight loss market. The owners of the company were in their young 30s. So just, a fair assumption, but at the end of the day, it was just an educated guess. So when I ran my research process, it turns out that their market was 89% women, so very few men, and heavily 50 and up. The majority of their buyers were 50, 55 to 65, and then even 65 to 70 and up. So this was critical because they were doing a lot of marketing to the younger demographic and the male demographic, like pictures of guys on the beach with their shirts off, these really hypey, aggressive weight loss headlines, the color scheme, using a lot of red and black in their funnel. And they were profitable in spite of themselves. Like I said, they were just riding that really fine line where if anything went wrong, they were immediately thrown into the negative side. So they were very open. They were very, they had their minds blown by what I had done with this market research. So they were very quick to act. They redid their whole messaging, redid their whole entire funnel, used a lot softer colors, light blues, light grays, started using photos of senior citizens, women in their golden years, toned down the messaging, and they went on to have a record-breaking year and reach the Inc. 500 as one of the top health companies that year. So it just goes to show that even these companies, you can be profitable even if you're not doing this stuff right. But taking the time to do it and really understand your market can help you reach very rapid breakthroughs.
Wow, that's a fantastic story, and it's very clear of how that really helped them and what they were missing. Now, since you've been involved in this and really understanding this process, when did you realize you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and what helped you to make that initial step?
Um, I don't know. I had kind of always had entrepreneurial tendencies when I was younger, but especially like in high school and college, I'd always managed to wiggle my way into high-paying jobs, so I never felt the need to pursue the entrepreneurial thing. But I was also blessed to ride out, about like 1 year after I got my first job in college. Uh, it was kind of crazy. The guy who had got me my job got into a fist fight with another employee, and I had been picking up some slack. I was doing like account management, but they had some overflow in the sales department. So this was a young startup. So I had started picking up the slack doing sales stuff for him. 2 weeks later, he gets in a fist fight with an employee in the lobby. They both get fired. I'm the only person who has sales experience, so I transitioned into the sales role, and my income like doubled overnight. Just started making really good money. And the reason I bring this up, I was fortunate or blessed to realize that it doesn't matter how much money you're making, if you're miserable and you hate your life. So I was making way more than any of my friends, but I just hated my life. I just had this gaping void every day when I was waking up and driving myself to school or driving myself to work. And after taking a couple trips overseas and traveling and reading the 4 Hour Work Week, I realized that I needed to make this internet business thing happen. There was no way I was ever going to be fulfilled working a 9 to 5 job. So I quit and tried to get a business off the ground for about 14 months, blew through my $81,000 life savings, and basically was at a crossroads. I was clinically depressed after 14 months of failure and burning through my life savings. Clinically depressed, was living at my mom's as a 29-year-old man, and decided I was looking at trying to fill out my resume and looking at the job boards, thinking I was going to have to go back to getting a 9 to 5 job. And I basically got to the point where I decided I would never, ever go back to corporate life, and kind of hit rock bottom and wondered if I should just go homeless because I'd had so much failure. I was like, being homeless would be better than living at my mom's or working a job. And of course, within 5 seconds, I decided that being homeless would be terrible. So I kind of decided that wasn't actually an option. But that was rock bottom. Like it was only a split second that I thought about that, but that was like, holy shit, I'm actually thinking about going homeless. So that was rock bottom, and I kind of got my second wind, dug up some sales and marketing books I had bought over the years, found Dan Kennedy's Ultimate Sales Letter, and just dove into it like an addict. Just read the book twice, cover to cover, took notes, developed a kitchen table business, just a super basic offer, wrote a sales letter following that book to the T, landed my first 4-figure client a week later, bankrolled that money into doing more lead generation via direct mail, picked up more clients, and the rest is history. Started doing copywriting for other businesses, and from there my career took off very quickly.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and I'm sure the listeners, many of them are going, yes, I'm either where he is or where he was with hating my job, and then having that fear of failure. But the failure that you had is as bad as it was. I mean, you were able to come out of the fire like the phoenix and survive and make it work, and you were determined to turn things around.
Yeah, I mean the pain of going back to a 9 to 5 job was worse than the pain of continuing to plow forward despite my repeated failures. So, yeah.
And what kind of things helped you to really cope? Because it sounds, I mean, here it is, you're sitting there, 14 months have gone by or whatever, and you failed miserably. You said you felt, significantly, seriously, clinically depressed probably. So, what was it? I know you found that information, you're able to turn it around, but Is there anything that you did in your mind to help you say, all right, Chris, I can do this? How did you did you have support around you who said, man, you can do it? Or was it internal to get back on your feet?
It was internal. I dealt with clinical depression before, so I was able to recognize what I was going through. I've always had a very supportive family. I've always been big on exercise. I know the importance of doing exercise to battle off depression, but, at the end of the day, I was just operating purely from a place of pain. It was like I was in a burning building and all I could think about was getting out of that burning building. I was just trying to escape what was a bad situation. I was coming up on my 30th birthday. I have a degree from a prestigious school, and I just I was so ashamed and so embarrassed of, I'd blown through $81,000. I was living at my mom's. I didn't have a car. I couldn't go surfing. I couldn't bring girls home. I couldn't date. Like, my life was terrible. As only a couple steps removed from like being flat broke and having to go homeless. So, yeah, it was just purely trying to escape a very painful situation.
Right. You did. You were able to find that energy and just dig in and never say quit. And you didn't let everything burn down around you. And so that's great. Now let's move on to the dig round, where I ask you a couple of quick questions. And the first is, what keeps you motivated, Chris?
These days, securing, helping, I definitely like to serve, helping other businesses achieve these breakthroughs by better understanding markets. I recently started coaching up and coming copywriters, and I had no idea how fulfilling I would find that to, help people on a one-on-one level avoid the mistakes and pain and suffering that I went through. So that's been really rewarding. And as I'm getting older, me and my girlfriend are talking about settling down and buying a house and having kids. So yeah, just hustling to provide financial security for my family.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, who do you look up to as a business leader?
I recently wrapped up a 4-month coaching session with a guy named Dan Meredith, who is very well known in some of the internet marketing circles, and he had a dramatic impact on me. His public persona is kind of this tough, hard ass, but when I started, sorry, I don't know if we can swear on here.
Sure. Go for it.
But when we actually started working together, I realized that he just had, an incredible heart and was highly dedicated to help, doing whatever he possibly could to helping his students succeed. So I kind of watched him come up from the beginning of his career, starting in like 2014. And then he and I started doing coaching with him towards the end of 2016, and it's just exploded my career and really taken me from a level of scarcity to abundance and seeing how I can serve others. So I've been, very closely following him and modeling him and trying not to get caught up in the information overload. There's so many admirable business owners out there. There's so many gurus and experts to follow that it's really easy to, just kind of listen to all the podcasts and read all the blogs and pick up on tidbits here and there. And I found it much more effective to just find one person that you really resonate with and dive deep and execute on, all their recommendations and strategies and whatnot.
Yeah, it sounds like he was a great choice for you and really helped you to kind of open up the funnel, so to speak, and let it flow. Now, if you had a choice between street smarts or book smarts, which one are you choosing?
Well, it depends. In my free time, book smarts. I love to learn. I love to read. I love to consume. But yeah, you're not going to get anywhere in life without street smarts, without taking action and learning those hard lessons the hard way. So yeah, street smarts all the way.
Gotcha. Now, looking back, what's been the most fulfilling part of your journey as an entrepreneur?
Fulfilling, yeah. Just kind of like I said earlier, helping other businesses achieve these breakthroughs. At the end of the day, all of us in this game are in this for the same thing. We're all trying to turn a profit ethically. We're all trying to ethically turn a profit. We're all trying to support our families. We're all trying to achieve freedom, the freedom lifestyle and financial security. So I just got a little notice. Okay, I thought we got disconnected there. So yeah, just being able to help other businesses achieve that, being able to do that in my own life, and starting, with the coaching and information products that I'm putting out, helping other up and comers, freelancers and whatnot, achieve that same thing, that same security, that same freedom.
Yeah, well, and that's got to be very rewarding for you to kind of help someone who's struggling initially, and to see them turn things around and just explode, and then come back to you and say, Chris, you're amazing. You really helped me, and so that's got to be a real positive feeling for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I mentioned, I worked my butt off for 14 months trying to get a business off the ground, and I don't think I ever made more than about $750 any given month, was just in the red. And both times that I've hired coaches to help me, it's just been like an explosion in my income, and just like shortcutting and hacking the process, just such rapid growth. So yeah, I encourage all your listeners to, if that's something they've considering, I highly encourage it. And I personally, have experienced the transformative effects of coaching, and now trying to help other people, trying to help other people to achieve that same rapid growth. So yeah, it's been very powerful in my life.
Absolutely. And even when we think of professional athletes or anybody at the top of their game, I mean, everybody has a coach of some kind. And, we're never, smart enough or good enough for what we're doing to think we can do it alone. And so it's always important to have that. And it sounds like, for you experienced it firsthand, how a coach can really take you from, being at sea and just kind of skip you across into some, shortcuts to get you kind of further down the line, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. It can be scary because the high level coaches, the ones that have the highest chance of getting you, helping you get good results, fast results, it can be a large financial investment. These guys I've worked with were 2,000, 3,000 a month. But as long as you vet the people that you're talking to, so you know that they're legit, and as long as you find someone who you resonate with, someone who's done what you're trying to achieve, I've earned a dramatic ROI anytime I've invested in a coach. It really is an investment. It's not an expense. As long as you take action, as long as you take action on what they teach you, of course.
Yeah, and if you follow through, and I think a lot of people who really could use a coach, in the initial stages, are thinking, yeah, I could use a coach, but man, I don't have the extra money to do it. I would love to have it, but $1,000 is just not going to cut it. I won't be able to eat or pay my mortgage, and so it seems like there's a big group of people out there who really could benefit, but just don't want to make that financial, or can't make that financial obligation.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I was just heard another podcast episode talking about this exact topic, and a lot of people out there have financed it on their credit card. I did, and I know a lot of people have. My mentor did, when this coach Dan, he paid for Ryan Levesque to mentor him. I paid for Dan on my credit card, and yeah, I mean, it can be a risk, but as long as you look at it like an investment, as long as you're confident in yourself, and as long as you're going to take action on what you'll be learning, it can be a very wise investment that will pay for itself multiple times over. If I could go back and do anything when I had all that money after, when I had that life savings built up after I quit my job, I 110% should have hired a coach. I spent so long trying to figure things out on my own, and it just broke me, broke me financially, broke me emotionally, mentally. So, if anybody's in that situation, I would highly encourage them to do what they need to do to not spend years trying to figure this out on your own.
Right. So in the long run, you're going to save time and money, and that's a fantastic tip. Well, Chris, we've come to the end of the show, and you've been a fantastic guest. But before we go, tell the listeners where they can find you online, your website, and where you are on social media.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to learn more about this market research process, they can check out www.mastermymarket.com. And then I am fairly active on Facebook, putting out content. Just can search my name, Chris Laub. I'm sure it'll be in your show notes on Facebook. Chris the copywriter. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, it's Chris Laub, Laub, and the website again is mastermymarket.com. Chris, you've been fantastic. I really appreciate your time being on the podcast, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Yes, definitely. Great talking with you today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you go, head on over to timlaskis.com/resources and check out one of my newest sponsors, Bluehost, who offers optimized hosting for WordPress. They have really cheap rates. They start as low as $3.95 a month. That's cool. They offer free domains, free site builders, one-click WordPress install, 24/7 support. If you're like me, I'm always need some support. So they got it. And best of all is 30 days and get your money back if you don't like it. Test drive it for 30 days. If you don't, say, man, I don't like this, but I know that's not going to happen because they power over 2 million websites worldwide. They're doing something right. So head over to timlaskis.com/resources and check out Bluehost for your hosting of your WordPress site. Thank you. Enjoy. Take care.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskis.com.